You disrespected me. You disrespected my daughter. You kicked my dog. You beat on my floors. You punched my baby. You punched my freaking baby.
It is the grandfather of mobster movies. It is the captain of the Cosa Nostra. It's the Godfather saga. And my dad didn't love it.
My dad does love it. And now I really enjoy it too. It was pretty good.
So this is a very different episode of Dad Would Have Loved This. We have been watching the Godfather saga together. Mm-hmm. When did we watch the first one?
It was a while back.
Yeah, like
months ago, maybe?
Several months ago, yeah. I would think. And then we watched the second one within a couple of weeks, probably. And then we let it sit. And this weekend we watched Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, which is a re-released version, a recut version of Godfather Part 3. So, my dad didn't love the Godfather movies, and it would have been cheating to put it on this series, but I'm his dad, and I do love the Godfather movies. So, his dad did love this, and we're going to talk about it a little bit today. We're going to try to go no spoilers at first. We'll talk about the saga overall, and then we'll go spoiler section, and we'll talk a little bit of specifics about each movie. Judah, how about that?
That works.
All right, awesome. So first of all, before you watch these movies with me, what did you know about these movies?
I knew
you come into my house, you disrespect my family,
and I knew
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
That's basically all I knew. I knew it was mafia and mobsters and Italian accents,
like a lot of cartoons referencing the Godfather, and that's what you knew about it. Yeah, that's fine. I know so much about classic films that I'm just seeing for the first time in the last few years because I watched Looney Tunes as a kid. So like, you're not alone. Animaniacs was really good at that too. I know a ton of stuff because I watched the Animaniacs. All right, so overall, these movies are released in 1972 and then 1974, and then Godfather Part 3 was originally released in 1990. Mario Puzo wrote the original novel, The Godfather, and Francis Ford Coppola directed all three films, starring primarily Al Capone, starring Al Pacino. Al Pacino, yeah, he plays Michael Corleone, and Marlon Brando is in the first movie as Don Vito Corleone. James Caan's in that movie. Diane Keaton's in that one. Robert Duvall's in a couple of these. And then, of course, the second movie is maybe best known because it tells both young Vito's story with Robert De Niro playing the role and Michael's story as now the head of the family in Godfather Part 2.
The second one was probably my favorite because of that.
I adore the second one, Judah. If you go look at my Letterboxd, Godfather Part 2 is number 2 of my all-time favorites, and I absolutely like it better than Godfather Part 1. Godfather Part 1 is maybe a perfect movie.
It was great.
But Godfather 2 is like trying more stuff and expanding in a way that was impressive when the first one was already good, you know? So you say number 2 is your favorite. What did you think of number 3 overall? Again, no spoilers. I will say if you don't know these movies, which I'm surprised about if you're watching this video, but if you don't know these movies, the third one is kind of much maligned. A lot of people didn't like some of the casting. There are a couple of characters that were supposed to come over to the third movie but didn't for one reason or another, and most people feel like it's a much lesser film. What do you think?
It's definitely my least favorite of the three, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. I still really enjoyed it. The acting, some of the acting was not as good as the other ones, but like I really enjoyed that they got as many actors to come back as they could.
It's cool seeing them, a lot older. Yeah. Although, and I did point this out to Judah as we were watching it, like so many of those actors look that way in real life now because in 1990 they were wearing a lot of old age makeup. It's very interesting looking back on it. Like, I thought Al Pacino was that old in 1990 until I started watching other movies, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. He's not an old man yet. I mean, he's older, but he's not that old. Now he's that old. All right. Thank you for checking out this slightly strange episode. And if you are not ready for spoilers on the Godfather saga, well, this is where we bid you adieu. I do want to say that all 3 of these movies, as we speak, are streaming on Paramount Plus, and of course, they're all for sale in all the digital storefronts. I own these on Apple TV through the Apple Store, and I got to tell you, they go on sale there all the time. You can buy the bundle for like $10, $15, $20, I think, sometimes. So watch out for that if you don't own these movies currently. And thanks for being subscribed to the channel. Make sure you get every episode. Stick around for just a minute because we're going to get into our spoiler discussion. All right, Judah, when we started watching Godfather 3 the other night, before the movie really got rolling in earnest, you said, I hope it starts with a party.
I was ready for it because the first 2 movies both started with parties, and then they end with the murder a bunch of people scene where it like cuts around.
Which is also the murder a bunch of people takes place like alongside some special event.
Yeah,
in the first movie, it's the christening of his of Connie's kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
in the church, and then
what is the end of the second movie? The end of the second movie is. Well, the very end of the second movie is the flashback to when he's a kid. But what is the climax of the second movie? I can't remember right now. Hang on a minute. I got to look it up. Godfather Part 2 ends. Oh, they have the same... At the end of Godfather Part 2, they have the same like tie-up scene, but it's not really like an event happening. You just see like Hyman Roth returns to the United States and gets shot. And
in the airport.
Yes. And then that's when they kill Fredo out on the water and everything.
The other guy was in the bathtub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's when
Tom visits him.
Frankie Five Angels says, "Oh, like the Roman Emperor, you know, if you put a plot against the king, you'd kill yourself, and your family could keep their fortune."
And he tried to go after Michael.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the climax. They still wrap it up like that, but there's not like an actual event. Yeah. And then the event that we see is the flashback to Vito's birthday party. They're all supposed to get together for Vito's 50th birthday party.
Michael talks about
has joined the army. Yeah, he's joined the army. Okay, so what was your favorite part of Part 2?
My favorite part of the second movie was probably the scene where Vito, as a young man, shoots the guy. He just takes it upon himself, and he does it like very precisely, like he knows what he's doing, and he's playing the whole thing out, and he, you know, hides the gun in several different places after breaking it apart, like wraps a towel around it. He's crazy. Well, it was really interesting to see him as a young man.
Yeah, no, Robert De Niro does a great job, and it's especially crazy, Judah, when you think about the fact that
he was speaking Italian.
Yeah, he only spoke. He says like 2 things in English the whole time. He says, "I make him an offer, he don't refuse," or whatever. He says that once, and I think he says something else in English in the movie, but basically he's speaking Italian at all other points. Let's talk for a second, though, about that scene specifically, because I noticed you got all excited in the third movie when we go back to that alley, or that street, I should say. Yeah. The Joey Zaza hit in Part 3.
I got really excited about that because it was... Like, I recognized it immediately. They had all the stalls going down.
You could literally, like, he sat up on the couch. Like,
I sat up and, like, leaned forward. I got really excited about it. It was cool seeing that neighborhood again. And, like, the plot line about Michael's sister and, like, some of the family being upset because it wasn't treated correctly. That was interesting. I liked it.
Well, it shows you again that like no matter how high Michael rises in society, like things are cyclical, and his ties to New York remain, and the expectations of the family remain.
It's like he said, every time I try to get out there, they pull me back in.
Yeah. All right. So, what was your biggest surprise of the series overall?
Okay, the third one we watched was The Godfather Part 3, Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to get shot at the opera.
At the conclusion. Yeah.
daughter got shot. And then it cuts to him as like a really old man, and he's like feeding some birds or something and puts on sunglasses. And I assume we're supposed to take that as like he has a heart attack in that moment and dies or whatever.
Yeah, do we see him fall? I'm not sure if we see him fall over or not.
I think it just faded to black.
I think he slumps in the chair.
Dying.
Yes, that's like his. We're seeing his final moments there.
I really didn't expect him to have a peaceful ending, I guess.
You say peaceful, but like, if you think about it, the loss of Michael's life is not what he dreaded. He even says it to his daughter at one point in the movie, I would burn in hell to keep you safe.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that is literally the point of the movie, that what Puzo and Coppola were trying to do is to show that Michael is punished. Like, even... I mean, that's what we see at the end of part 2, right? Yes, he kills Fredo and all of his enemies die, but he's alone at the compound in Nevada and his family's all left him. You know, it's just, I'm sad and lonely. And then we get a glimpse of, even in the flashback, even young Michael. Well, it turns out Michael was cold and was kind of like pushing the family away, even as a young man. So we get that mirror. But in the third one, okay, he's risen above all of that. Even Kay forgives him in part 3, basically, you know. They make up. Like, she's married. Well, she's married to somebody else, but like, yeah, we meet her husband early on at the party for Michael at the beginning. She brings him, and then
I remember that.
He's the guy that wrote the thing and was like, I couldn't be there because he was working or something, but he didn't come to Italy,
right?
So they have some time alone. But yeah, Michael clearly wants to make up, and I think they end the movie as friends. I think they have forgiven each other for all their grievances, so to speak, but. Even as his family has returned to him, even as his church has blessed him publicly, you know, even as he's finally reached that pinnacle of legitimacy, and
he's also a billionaire at the end of. We don't know how much money he has, but like he's clearly incredibly wealthy.
I didn't remember this, but watching it this weekend, he spends in this movie right at $1 billion. So like.
He was handing it out like it was nothing.
How much money does the Corleone family have at the beginning of this film? I don't know, but more than $1 billion is the point.
His casinos were clearly doing good until he sold them.
Yeah, he did very well with the casinos, apparently. But even with all of that success, he's still punished. Like, karma is real, and the bad things that Michael has done over the years come home to roost. And the only way, honestly, that he could have been punished is the loss of Mary. Like, I mean, I guess you could have killed Tony, and that would have also been punishment. But like,
yeah, but they weren't close like that.
That Tony would
it wouldn't have hit him the same way.
No, you're 100% right. You're 100%. Parents don't have favorites, but there
Michael
are relationships.
Corleone does. Come on, he had a favorite kid.
I think sometimes kids have favorites. Right? You know, there are children that are closer to parents, and there are children that are further away from parents. And so this was one of those, like, Mary was, or Michael was Mary's favorite, I should say. And so that's what makes her loss all the more punishment. It's such a beautiful series. I mean, I guess in retrospect, Judah, now that we watched part 3 again, and you agreed with me that, like, yes, it's not as good as 1 or 2, but like compared to basically any other movie, it's great. It's like very good.
It wraps it up really well.
So satisfying. And I mean, like, I was always bummed that there was never a 4th part. I don't know if I talked to the specifics about this, but the rumor was that we were going to get another 2 time periods, and we were going to see Leo DiCaprio play young Sonny, and Vincent Corleone, played by...
That would have been really cool. We would have gotten more father.
What is his name? I can't remember his name right now. Andy Garcia plays Vincent Corleone in the 3rd one, and he's so good. Like,
he was really good as Vincent.
I mean, and think about the heavy lifting that must have been, Judah, to play against like Talia Shire and friggin' Eli Wallach as Don Tomasino, and like, not Don Tomasino, Don not Portobello, that's the mushroom. Who was the little guy with the mustache? Michael, I want to put my money with yours and add it to the Vito Corleone Foundation.
I remember that guy.
What's his name? Eli Wallach is the actor's name. Hang on, he plays It's not Portobello. I'm going to have to edit this.
Close to that.
It is pretty close to that. Altabello.
Altabello.
Don Altabello. Yeah, he's Connie's godfather. All right, so Altabello, by the way, is a great addition to part 3. Like he's such a good, such a worthy adversary. But like Eli Wallach is a famous actor, Judah. Like he's been around for just a million years. Obviously, Al Pacino is a famous actress. Like Diane Keaton's a famous actress and like very well known. Like for Andy Garcia, as young as he was, to hold his own against these other actors is like really impressive. Mm-hmm. And we ask him to do a lot in this movie. Like Vincent has honestly the best arc of the film, I would say. Think about him in that opening scene where we first meet him. And he is like literally a street rat. Like he is a hood rat.
Yeah.
You know, like an actual low level gangster.
He's not doing anything.
I mean, not of note, right?
Not
like he's
note,
very
no.
charismatic. He's got his father's charm, but like he is just a hood. And then at the end of the movie,
he's Godfather.
It makes absolute, like you don't bat an eye when he sits and everybody comes to kiss the ring.
Mm-mm.
It's like, yes, of course,
You're
that's
like,
right.
oh, yeah, it's him, of course.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And I thought it would have been wonderful to get to see some Sonny in comparison to him, you know?
It would have been really cool to get some more Sonny screen time, yeah.
Vito says it in part 1, Sonny was a bad Don, you know? And so you see Vincent, would Vincent have been a good Don? Vincent did a pretty good job, I thought, like wrapping things up or whatever.
And he
obviously somebody gets killed, but Michael didn't.
He did his best. It's his first time. He is a lot different than Michael as a Don. Like you can see it in the very short time he was Don on screen. But he's very different than Michael, and Michael was very different than Vito.
Yes.
Very different than Vito. So, like, they've all got their own way they run things. It's neat.
Yeah. All right, so you a fan of gangster movies now?
I think I am, yeah. I would be definitely open to watch some more.
I think the most interesting thing I think as a rule about mafia films is that it brings in this like view into the immigrant experience that that you and I don't really have access to otherwise, and then also it's like this great big question about like the American experiment. Hey, does this work? Do you have to cheat the system to make the system work for yourself? You know.
The movies suggest a little bit. The movies suggest you might actually have to bend the rules a little bit.
It's all a secret Vatican Council, Judah. It's all a secret Vatican Council. Did you mind, quickly before we wrap up here, and thanks for doing this with me, but did you mind that the third one becomes like sort of specific about the business dealing of it all? Like the first two movies don't get into like the contract negotiations.
No, not really.
The third one's very much Star Wars Phantom Menace as far as like the trade routes politics, must be opened.
Yeah. In the first two movies, it's the business, quote unquote. It's kind of just like they were like, we don't sell drugs. That was a lot of it. That was most of the business talk. But in the third movie, it was like, we really want to buy this real estate company from the Vatican.
I mean, there are at least 2 shareholder meetings in part 3.
I didn't really mind it. Like in the Star Wars movies, like in the Phantom Menace, I kind of enjoy the politics.
Well, I feel like they do a good job. Even better here than in Star Wars. They do a good job of making that like stock market of it all interesting and compelling and dramatic. You know, like Michael's given his presentation and then he's peppered with questions about, are we going to let this guy with the map of Sicily on his face take over which I thought was hilarious, by the way, because like they're in New York, but this is a European company that is largely controlled by the Vatican. Why would this guy be worried about Catholics and Italians?
Yeah, that was kind of random, seemingly. Yeah, I did enjoy the politics. they made it interesting, and that was cool.
Awesome. Dude, I'm so glad you watched this with me. I'm
very glad I watched.
I guess this will be our thing. You and I will talk about mafia movies in the future. I don't know if we go directly to Goodfellas. I got to think about it. So I would say after these three, the next best gangster movie, as far as American mob movies go, is probably Goodfellas. And the cool thing about Goodfellas versus this, first of all, it's Martin Scorsese, who's like a whole different style than Coppola. But also, these movies are about the guys in charge of the mob, right? The Goodfellas movie is about three dudes who work for the mob.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
In this one, it's just a guy telling a guy to go kill a guy, and we're watching the go kill guys.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. All right. Dude, you got pretty good taste in movies.
Thank you. we could watch some westerns and talk about it, because then my dad would have loved this, and your dad would have loved this. That's even better.
Oh, you know what we okay.
Our dads would have loved this.
Maybe for Opa's birthday we do a special westerns episode. I got to think about what you. I tell you what we'll need to talk about at some point, Judah. We need to talk about Rango probably. Yes. Rango, the Johnny Depp lizard, and he's not a lizard. What is he? He's a chameleon. There you go.
Yeah.
The Johnny Depp chameleon animated film.
One of the best animated movies ever.
Where would you put it on your top 10 list? Is it like your number one?
It's top 3.
There you go.
Maybe not number 1, but it's top 3 definitely.
He had suggested it for a million years. I finally watched it not too long ago, and it is
Thank goodness.
Incredibly influenced by a bunch of movies, in particular Chinatown, which blew my mind. I had no idea it had a Chinatown plot.
It's got like 30 different tropes in it.
Maybe that's what we do next, actually, is we watch Chinatown and talk about it and Rango together, Judah, because the plots are so connected. Yeah. All right. Watch out for that. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching this. Thanks for hanging out with me, Jude.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jude.
Thank you for suggesting we watch these movies.
Awesome.
Woo!
All right. Until next time, I'm Joel Sharpton, and this has been Dad Would Have Loved This. I bet your dad would, too.